my screen. There we go. Now it
Oh, okay. You know what? It said that it would record from the beginning, but
automatically, yeah, but it's on now. It wasn't before.
oh, well, thank you. Okay, so now that we're actually recording, this is a meeting of the Sunny Minds. So this is, my name's Bianca, and this is, I actually don't know what to call you.
Raw.
Raw, I love it. So this is Raw, and I've been following him on Instagram because I have started sungazing about 5 years ago. And I went through an awakening. I don't even want to go into all of that. It's so crazy for every one of us. But specifically, I am writing a book about the third eye and about strengthening your immune system and, of course, everything that goes along with it. So what I wanted to know is just kind of share your sun gazing practice. I know you share a lot of it already, but what, like, as far as why do you do it, what got you into it, anything you want to share about it, and of course the more controversial, I call it perineum sunning or butt gazing, mooning, however you want to refer to it. It's a thing, and I am very excited to talk to someone that does it. So what would you like to,
Okay. All right. So let's start with all of it. Sun gazing. We'll start with sun gazing since that's the first thing that you asked about. So actually, I've been out of practice for about, I would say, 6 months. It's something I take really seriously, but I've been working on a pretty serious project, and I've been really busy. So I can't get to it every day, but I've been making sure that I get out in the sun naked. So even though I'm not getting it into my eyes as much as I'd like to, I used to be every single day, rain, shine, even if it was cloudy out, I would still
in the car, yes.
Yeah, yeah. But the purpose of it is because the light is our source, right? If you think about everything on this entire planet is actually light. And I don't take the notion that, the gravitational model of the universe, that isn't really something that I participate in. And in that model of the universe, there is a dust cloud, and that dust cloud, gravity pulled the star together, and it became a star, and the leftovers became the planet. And whether that's true or not, that would all be stardust anyways. But I come from the place where the planets are birthed out of the star, and it's not very supported in mainstream. Maybe people haven't heard of this theory, but this is more in line with like the plasmic theory of the universe, where pretty much everything is light, and the star acts more like a node of like a node in the middle of the galaxy, and the galaxy is a node to the universe, and everything is sharing information in the version of light. And so with that analysis of our solar system, the light source actually has the information that's programming the life and the planet itself. And so with that, let's call it a belief, even though for me it's a knowing, with that belief, with that knowing, with that gnosis, it's important for me to make sure to get the daily codes from the light source. And how does the body do that? Well, there's melanin, and melanin is in our hairs, it's in our eyes, it's in our skin. And the hair, the eyes, and the skin are actually part of the nervous system. So the nervous system also includes the nerves and the brain. And the brain pretty much programs us how to behave. It also repairs all of our cells at night. It's responsible for melatonin. All right. So I'm mentioning all these things because we're going to take the path of the light from our hair, our eyes, and our skin in through our nervous system, into our brain, into our pineal gland. And then what happens when we sleep? The melatonin comes out during deep sleep, and then we repair our cells. And that whole process is not really understood by science. Okay, it's, if you just look up what does the pineal gland do or what does melatonin do, one of the first things you'll see is that scientists do not know. We do not know exactly how these processes work. So I took it upon myself to figure it out, basically based on observation and reflection. Okay, and for me, that's real. And I also, I'm going to say some other bizarre things that you're probably on board with, Bianca, but maybe some other people aren't. Reality is fluid, and I would say that it also is, many of them are happening at the same time. And I would say many different realities are available to us to experience in this present moment. And I would also say that we're experiencing many realities at once, and most definitely many realities are being experienced by different people in the same space-time. And so that means that our beliefs and our truths are very important in the creation of our life experience, because my truth will create one certain reality and somebody else's truth will create another reality, and our vibrational state at any moment can
merge
yes,
whenever they are vibrating. Yes.
Yeah, and we can flicker channels even within our own personal landscape of reality. So with all of that said, why is light important? Because as I said before, light is the program. It is programming us to be in tune with those certain channels, with those certain frequencies. And if we want available to us the infinite source of all possibilities at this moment, then we must make sure that we're bathed in the source of the information. And this information is changing, right? Light is a frequency. It is not just a thing. It's not one thing. Light is a changing frequency. And our sun, so whether we're you know, I can't say that we're rotating around the galaxy, but let's just say that we are. As the sun rotates around the galaxy, there's seasons. Just like when the Earth rotates around our star, there's seasons within, we can say that there's temperature seasons. But as the sun rotates around the galaxy, we can say that there's energetic seasons. And when we look into very, very long calendars, like every calendar except for the one, I don't know who that was. It might have been me. But I don't know who, I just said that. I was going to say, if you look into the long calendars, the long count calendars, where most cultures took calendars in the tune of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years, they were, and again, none of this is a lecture, right? This is all from my experience. So I talk like I'm telling people what is, but I'm really just saying what is for me. So I just want to make that clear. So what is for me, the reason why cultures took calendars and very, very long counts is because they were mapping the sun going around the galaxy, not mapping the planets going around the sun like we do. We map the moon going around the planet, that's the month, and then we map the Earth going around the sun, that's the year. But the Mayan calendar, the Aztec calendar, the Chinese calendars, all of these calendars are mapping something much longer. They're mapping the seasons of energy that the sun experiences as it's going through its cycle. And through these seasons, all of these calendars are marking stages of consciousness. Okay, they're all marking stages of consciousness. And I'm saying all this, we're not living thousands of years, but even on a daily, monthly, yearly cycle, the star is casting out different levels of consciousness.
Thank you.
Okay, so why is that important? Because you want to be up to date. And now, when the light comes down onto this earth, it gets captured, right? And in the plants, they're green, and they go through this whole photosynthesis thing, and it makes energy. And I would say that plants are made up of earth, air, sunlight, water, and then there's this fifth element, right? Consciousness of some sort. Some people call it ether. Rubric Sheldrake calls it the morphic field, and it's the map that tells a tree to be a tree, to tell a tree how to grow into a tree. Because if they have the raw materials, the light, the earth, the air, the water, you still need a forming agent, and that's the consciousness. That's the light codes that do that. And we're made up of the same things, right? We're made up of sunlight, earth, air, water, right? Because we eat the food that has the earth, the air, the water, and the consciousness. And so when we eat food, we're really eating light. And so that's one version of getting this map, these etheric codes into our body. But another way is to go straight to the source, to the light. So melanin is in our eyes, it's in our hair, and it's in our skin. And people have different versions of melatonin, okay? And I actually, again, know to be that the different versions of melatonin influence the way that we receive and use the program of the light. So maybe, and I haven't had this figured out yet, but maybe this explains why white people act different than highly melanated people, okay? And because there definitely is a different type of melanin in light-skinned people to dark-skinned people.
So
And,
may I interrupt real quick? So
yeah.
melanin could potentially be the interpreter or decoder of the information. So if light is information and it's the ultimate truth, and the melanin is part of our system, is that decoding it for us to then further perceive it? Or like, is that set in stone, set in melanin?
Well, I think that's a better way of saying what I was saying. Decoding. It's decoding the light. And there has to be a process of decoding at somewhere in this chain, right? It has to exist. And I think that it could very well be at the first stage of reception of light, which would be the melanin. And again, I don't know. I'm just observing and reflecting and noticing that highly melanated people act a certain way, and light-skinned people act a certain way. Like, there are differences based on observation. And actually, I read a book. It's called Melanin. It's called like I forget exactly what it's called, but the words soul and spirit, I think soul or spirit was in the subtitle of the book Melanin. It's just a black book. It says Melanin. And it was about the African races, which are very, very highly melanated, being more able to absorb the light. And that's, if you think about the African people, they're pretty on the spot when it comes to being human. They're like very athletic, very like they dance, they make up language as in the middle of talking. They can make up language, they can make up words. They have soul, and then you go to the northern cultures and it's a little bit like just dry acting, okay, as opposed to like wild and ecstatic. And that's a function of the sun. The sun is that energy of yang. And you go to like where there's less sun and less of this energy, and you got like a drier, sort of colder acting people. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. So light comes in.
I mean, that everything is part of the topic. That's an amazing interpretation, because I never looked into how, like, where you're from, but I was born and raised in the Philippines. So I came here when I was 19, and I was literally, you're in the sun, you're in the beach all the time. It's such a different atmosphere, not just the weather, but the people were very different. And you're right though, it's not, because you can take that same family and put them somewhere else, and they're going to be a little bit more adjusted to the energy that they're receiving. Because I am a big believer that we're walking, talking plants, and that we do that first process, like, and I'm not sure either, because like you, I make up a lot. I mean, I don't know about you, but I make up a lot of stuff that comes in, and I know it's true for me. It may not be true for you, but it's 100% true for me today, for this present moment. And there are times when I go, okay, my truth yesterday was definitely not something I am part of now. But that's just as we grow and as we experience and we learn more truths, right? So yeah, that's just, it makes me really think about how.
Are you Filipino?
Yeah, yes, Filipino.
I'm half Filipino. So I noticed how thick your hair was. When I got
right, dude. We have like I haven't washed my hair in 2 years.
Nice.
People are, well, I mean, I wash it with vinegar, but I don't shampoo. And it's just the strongest it's ever been. Do you speak Tagalog?
No.
Because that'd be a great conversation. Yeah, I speak fluent Tagalog.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, I was born in America, and I'm half Filipino. And my mother didn't speak Tagalog.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you also said something else during that. You mentioned you're from Filipino, then the light. Anyways, I'll keep on going. Oh, you mentioned your truth, and whatever is most resonant with ourself is where we want to harmonize to, right? So if we're going through life and we think one thing, and then we believe or be influenced by a book or a school system that changes what we're harmonized to. If we felt really good about something and we're existing in this reality, as I said, that is the reality that you're experiencing. And then if you choose to subscribe to something that's outside of that current reality, it's going to cause tension, because now you're pulled away from where your highest vibrational state is living. And
it sounds like a description of disillusion. Like, if this is my truth, and I'm just kind of learning and observing as I'm speaking. But so when you're in your truth and you're in the zone, and you are experiencing other energies beyond that zone, whether you're aware of it or not, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel that something is not right. I mean, is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're not going to be completely in tune and capable of harmonizing / if we want to use a more aggressive term, controlling your current state of reality, because we are creating all of this anyways, and we're traveling through realities, not so much traveling in one reality through time. So that's also a headspace to be aware of, that all realities that we're ever going to experience is happening now, and we're traveling through the different dimensions of realities, the different spaces, and as opposed to being in one reality traveling through different times. Okay, so that's normally how we think about it, is we're in one reality and then we're experiencing the different times of that reality. And I'm just going to repeat it again because it's a little bit deep. But if we just imagine infinite possibilities, then we're literally experiencing many, many different versions of reality every single second. We're traveling through realities. And then the question is, what's the remote control? And the remote control is
your focus.
Exactly. It's our state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want our complete state of being in alignment with itself, and then we will be in alignment with reality. It's not that we have to figure out, how do I align to this reality? We don't have to figure out that, because the reality is aligned to us. So we just have to make sure that we're in alignment to ourselves, to all parts of ourselves. If we're doing something on a daily basis that doesn't feel right, if we're learning and we're running programs that doesn't feel right, well, then you're not optimizing your state in your reality, because something's off. And it's really easy to do. You just do exactly what you want to do in every single moment. And then eventually there's no, like, that want, that word want, usually it means I don't have it, so I want it. But if you're always granting yourself permission to be what you want, to be what you desire, then the desires and the wants disappear, and you're really just in this flow. And whether you have what you want or you don't, there really is no want, there's no longing. There just is being the highest vibration, no matter what situation you're in, whether your car is getting repoed in the moment or you're meeting the love of your life. It's the same sort of amplification of like perfection, like the knowingness of perfection.
It's almost like a not caring. Some people can think it's a not caring. And it's not, and I tell people, it's not that I don't care. I wish you well, but I don't care to care about you. I don't want to be attached because you just want to accept what is going on, that it is the best thing for your highest purpose. Yeah.
You just said three things that describe the same scenario: acceptance, non-attachment, and not caring. There's a train going by right now. I'm in Mount Shasta and I'm outside. I don't know if it's bothersome, but we got to get back to the light. Okay. Do you have any other questions about that or statements or?
No, go ahead.
All right. So all that taps in, you're right. It is all related. And so we want to make sure that what else is influencing us besides the consciousness that is inside of our brain and the consciousness that is outside of our brain, well, that consciousness that's outside of ourself is coming in through the light. And so having influence from that, receiving influence from that is, it's also another perfect thing.
It's almost magical.
Yeah. It takes away the stress and it just takes away it gives you power, and with power you don't need force.
Yes.
And that's the magic, right? Is that you're able to be more with less effort. And that seems,
I love that. My number one exercise is my tree pose. I do nothing and I allow everything else to do what is necessary. I love how you said that. I just want to share just a quick little story about what you were saying. So I have a crystal store, and I'm a believer of the frequencies and the energies. And a few months ago, I was going to start to write a book. And I put together a grid, and I said, I'm going to bring in all this energy, and I'm going to manifest this book. And a couple days later, I got signed by a publisher. Now, up until 2 days ago, I thought I had manifested it, bringing in all this energy and all this, which is partly true. But then I watched something and realized that it's because it already exists. I'm already a whatever in all these other areas. It's already existing. As soon as you think of it, that form is there. And then by me being open to it and taking action, my antenna was just like sucking in energy to make it happen. And and then what I found, it was actually, what's his name? Greg Braden. He was saying something about it takes 72 hours. And I just saw this the other day, and I go, it actually literally was 3 days from the moment I printed the paper, put a crystal on it, to receiving an offer for publishing my book. That is and that's not the only proof, but it's just something that just is even more so of what you're saying. Everything already exists. We have unlimited versions of us. In fact, unlimited versions of us speaking here about all these different things. And it's just what we're focusing on. So yeah,
Right.
I love it. I get it. Yeah.
It's good when then it pops up and you can see how it works. You can see the mechanics of it working. It's always working though. Like every moment is a manifestation of our intentions, which is the crazy part. Because and you look at the things that aren't so favorable and you're like, how did I create this? And you can almost see how you created that more easily than you can see.
You can go trace the dots and I know why.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun to do.
Okay, so back to the light. So so melanin absorbs the light, and when we're a baby, when the sperm enters the egg, so before we were a baby, when the sperm enters the egg and then it divides into 2 cells, then 4 cells, then, it's dividing into cells. Eventually those cells separate into germ layers is what they're called, but they separate into different versions of a cell. And those different versions of the cell become the human being. And so one version of the cell becomes, so that's the ectoderm is our brain and our nerves. And then the mesoderm becomes our bones and our muscles. And the endoderm becomes our organs. In a general sense, that's what happens. And so as the zygote, as that group of cells grow, all of those different versions of cells turn into all the different versions of us. And those 3 layers, they're kind of flat, and then they start forming into a sphere. And in the very, very center of that is the ectoderm. It's the brain. Okay, so as everything's, well, and on the outside is the bones and the muscles, and then in the middle is the organs. And as it starts closing, the one in the middle, the ectoderm, it kind of like leaves 2 little strands that come out as the sphere closes. Okay, so that's the brain. It comes out as the sphere closes, and then that group of cells coats the entire thing. So if you can imagine, the brain comes out and it pokes out right before it closes, and then it coats. That's the skin and the hair. So the skin and the hair are an extension of the brain. And
wow, I love it. Yeah.
So it literally is your brain. It is nerves. And so the melanin captures the light. It's not there. Shouldn't say these negative words, but I don't know it to be there to block the sun. I think that the reason why we go out into the sun and we get more melanin in our skin throughout time is because the body recognizes, oh, we need more solar panels because we are in the sun. So let's put more solar panels in the skin. And it's our natural state to be tanned. That's natural. It's unnatural to not be tanned. That's why we look better when we're tanned, because if we're staying indoors the whole time, that's a version of being sick, and the body's not its full self. And just like if you put a plant in a cupboard, I've heard stories, I haven't seen it myself, but it'll turn white or it'll lose the green out of it. Actually, if you just put something on your yard, like a swimming pool, like a kid's swimming pool, and then move it after 5 days, all of the grass won't be green anymore. It'll be like a pale yellow. And that's the same thing when you put a human being indoors and they're not out in the sun. They turn a pale yellow color. And that's the first time I put that link together. But so the melanin takes in the sun and it transfers it through the nerves into the brain. And then so right in the center of the brain, and this is definitely me making it up, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so the light goes in.
I make a lot of things up. I get it.
So this is what makes sense to me. The light goes in and it goes into the pineal, because of the center of the brain, there's the pineal gland, right? And also, I know this is science. There's a book called Light, Medicine of the Future. And this eye doctor breaks down that when light comes into the eye, there's 2 nerves that come off the eye. One goes to the optic center of the brain where it decodes the light into vision. And then the other nerve goes to the hypothalamus, which is like the hormone master of the body. And then it goes from the hypothalamus down to the pineal gland. So I know that light that comes in through the eyes eventually ends up in the pineal gland, so that I can only assume that light that's coming into the skin is going to the pineal gland. So that's where I made it up, right? And I also tried to see if there is science, but there's not. So pineal gland, when you sleep, what's it doing? So you go into deep sleep and you start dreaming. And the pineal gland during that time is also producing melatonin. So when you look at those two concepts, you're looking at massive amounts of visuals that are happening in non-physical reality, and then your body is being recalibrated and repaired to its most optimal state. To me, it seems like, oh, this is where the light is being re-expressed. Okay, so you are experiencing the energy of the light through a dream. And yes, dream interpretation is a lot of, it can be a lot of things, but I think the way that we interpret dreams is from this physical standpoint. What do these energies mean to our physical body? And that's how our brain interprets energies that it doesn't understand. It's going to understand it from our third dimensional mindset. So even though there's a flood of pure perfect light going in and allowing the pineal gland to express melatonin, and the melatonin's going and telling our cells exactly how to be so that it's better the next day. I mean, that sounds like a perfect tune-up that light could only be responsible to. And when you actually look at light, what light is, you know, we got different names for it. Some people call it God, right? Chi, prana, like life force. There's a lot of different versions to call light. And so this force is going into the body and basically making it perfect again. And then we're experiencing that sort of, we're experiencing those energies as dreams. And so then the question is like, okay, well, we need to be out in the light as often as possible, as often as our body can handle, right? I'm not saying we need to get burned ever, but it's important to be in the light, and we can get that light in through our skin. There's solar panels all over our skin. We can get that light in while sun gazing, you know, during the first half hour or hour of sunrise, and same thing at the end of the day during sunset. Or and the whole thing with the skin is like, we have to make sure all of our skin gets into the light. Like there's solar panels all over ourselves. And so that's where like being naked comes into play here, because now you're activating parts of yourself that for most of us in the first world countries haven't ever exposed to the light.
Where the sun don't shine. That's where it came from.
Right.
Well, I'm just going to assume that's where it came from, but yeah. So, yes.
So now, you know, I'm not the only one in it. I mean, I'm not saying that I am, but there's many places where these practices show up, where, you know, perineum sunning, even sunning like your genitals, I actually think is probably, I mean, it's all important, but sunning your genitals is also very important. It's just the butthole sunning thing got a lot of press because they like wanted to make a spectacle of it. That really wasn't my intention. You can see that I think about these things all the time. And I made a video on butthole sunning, and it was literally 5 minutes of my life. I made that video in 2 takes. It was just like,
that's exactly what I do. These ideas come in and you're like, I got to make a video. I need to get this information out. There's not a lot of editing involved. That's not the message is what's important. And
the first take, there was just showed too much of one of, like, I would have got kicked off of Instagram. So I just had to do another take. And then I posted it, and then it went nuts. And then everyone wanted to talk about the benefits of it. Yeah. but yeah, it's all about getting that light in. And if you start looking into Taoist cultures, there's other ways to get in these codes. I mentioned that earlier. Eating is a version of getting in sunshine, right? Because in the plants is sun, and even in animals, you could argue there's sun in animals. It's just one step removed. It's one step less. It's diluted, essentially. That's why animals that eat other animals eat animals that eat plants. Usually carnivores don't eat carnivores.
Carnivores, correct.
Right. So they're eating herbivores because that's where the more nutrient dense light is. And sometimes carnivores eat carnivores, but I think it's more of a like dominance thing than it is for nutrition.
Maybe they can sense the amount of life energy in a being. I mean, maybe like we can kind of sense it when we look at a fruit. You know, we're using our senses, but maybe they can see. I mean, a bird can see the magnetic map of the landscape. We don't see that. So maybe they do know that, okay, well, they can sense that there's like almost maybe like a scale of life, like an aura camera.
It's called common sense, right? If you put an animal in the forest, the animals in the forest know what food is, they know what poison is, and they know what medicine is. Just they know it. I took my dog to this my friend's place in Central California, and he immediately went to the pond and started digging up the roots of the cattails and eating the roots. And this guy who's a native was like, "Hey, whose dog is this?" Like the natives here used to take these things out of the ground, grind them up, and there was a grinding stone that was like still there, grind them up and then cook them. Like, your dog's really smart that he knows this. And I'm just like, yeah, but he just knows it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they just know it. And we've lost that because our senses has been hacked, right? Normally when we're starving and we come up onto a tree and there's like a bright, shiny fruit, like you said, to us, we can make the assumption that that's edible because the tree wants us to want it. And if you go out into the street, you see bright, shiny colors that are incentivizing us and tricking us to think that that's where the edible food is, right? Like, you got the McDonald's, like, big, huge yellow and red signs, and you go into the grocery store and you see bright colors everywhere. That's hacking our senses to think that these things are edible, even though, you know, it's pretty much garbage that they just put a shiny label on.
Yeah, it'll get you full, but it won't give you any nutrition, for sure.
Right. So I think that, Taoist cultures and a lot of cultures in the East, they have practices where they receive life force in other ways than our nose and our mouth. So along with eating, we also breathe in prana, we breathe in energy. If we stop these two things from happening, and then we can actually start to feel our body vacuuming in what it needs. And I just thought of right now, if you guys have ever dry fasted, which is no food and no water, your body will actually start making its own water. It's going to start making its own water from the hydrogen as the cells. There's a war that happens inside your body where all the cells and bacteria are fighting for water. And as and the weak cells and the strong cells are fighting for water, the weak cells die off. The bacteria, that's unnecessary and weak, die off compared to your strong, healthy cells in the body. And that die off releases hydrogen because there's light in everything. It releases hydrogen. And then the oxygen that we're breathing in, the body starts making water. So when you wake up from a dry fast, your mouth is so dry, and And then as the day goes on, you start to notice that like you start to feel hydrated. Your body's making its own water, and the skin's pulling in pulling in, because the same thing's happening in the skin. The skin dries up at first, but then it starts pulling in and making or absorbing water from the air. I'm not entirely certain how the process works, but that's why dry fasting is so profound and so healthy for you, because you're now not taking in external water, you're making water in a pure
living
state.
water.
Right.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of that.
So there's also other ways. If you even stop breathing, you can start pulling in life force from different areas of the body. The kidneys in like Qigong, this is a big thing. And then also the perineum is another, they call them gates. They're openings into the body where you can pull in life force. And what, if you watch Qigong people, they're moving really slow. And what they're doing is they're energetically harmonizing the area around their body to match themselves, to match frequencies. And you can actually start feeling it happening. And then you got this whole bubble around you that is perfectly harmonized to your energy. And then you can start absorbing it in and also sharing your energy back out into reality. And that's the practice. And these energies come in from certain places. And one of the main places is the perineum. Another place is like the tips of the fingers are also like their antennas. And the hair from other cultures is said to do the same thing. That's why I wear this up here, because it's channeling in through my solar center on the top of my head. Women are like back here, according to like physical women. I'm not talking, like the physical shape, the physical body of man versus woman. Whether you're born into the wrong body or not is another thing. But there's ways to get in energy, and the perineum's another one. So that just goes back to the whole like perineum sunning thing, that this is a very important gate of the body. This is where life is produced. This is where, our foundation stems from. This is where we eliminate the forces that we don't need. And yeah, just a lot of stuff happens down there. It would be vital for us to get exposure to sunlight, because sunlight it goes deep into the body. It's not just like it hits the skin and that's it. Like, it's multidimensional. So even though I said everything, it's still traveling through our homes into ourselves. It's just the full spectrum is being fully exposed to it. And we're still shielded by our atmosphere. But the full spectrum, the fullest spectrum would be completely shielded to it without clothes. Obviously, we still get light, even with clothes on, even with being indoors. Those rays come in through everything. Infrared, for instance, we can't see it, but it's heat. So if you're in a place that's above absolute zero, you are being bathed in the infrared spectrum of light. That's what infrared is.
So is infrared a replacement then when you are not able to get sun? I mean, I have an infrared mat that is a black tourmaline. It's nice and warm and it feels amazing. I meditate on that. But is that a good supplement when the sun is not out?
So, I mean, I think that we're extremely powerful. We're the ones that can tune ourselves the most. Maybe I shouldn't say the most, because the light, well, either way, our consciousness and how we feel about certain things like that is very high on the influence of the scale of which it is beneficial to you. So if you believe in these certain things, it almost makes it more, let's call it healthy or more right than if you didn't believe it. So somebody watching this who doesn't really believe in this whole infrared black tourmaline phenomenon, they could do the same thing you're doing and be a skeptic and pretty much not get anything out of it. So there is that version, right? Now, to answer your question, I'm answering it that way because I'm just going to say that I haven't really gotten into the infrared light. Everyone always asks me about it, but I kind of just make sure that I'm in the sunlight all the time. I moved to Southern California for that reason. And even now, my partner and I are thinking about going to Hawaii, where there's even more light,
Yes.
to Hawaii. So, and maybe staying in a colder climate for the summertime and where the sun's out, and then moving to Hawaii during the winter times. I don't know, but we're structuring our life around light. So I haven't really gotten into the technological.
Like birds. I mean, isn't that what they do? They're following the seasons. Their third eye is driving them. Uh-oh.
I got it. Something popped up on my screen.
I'm still very much in tune. I'm just trying to get this Facebook Live going just to see if I can figure this out. Sorry. Okay. So I don't think I've shared this in any, because I've been online. I do a lot of little videos. I don't promote as well as a lot of other people, but I got to get my message out there, even if I'm the only one that rewatches it. But I have practiced, I guess I'm just going to call it butt bathing, where I do a pose. I'm actually touching my toes and gazing at the sun through my legs upside down. So you're getting sun from both ends at the same time. Have you ever tried that? Like sun gazing, so that you're receiving it. I know. And here's something else I added to that. Sorry. I practice crystal therapy. And so I wear a citrine necklace when I do that, because what happens is I'm upside down, the necklace falls right here. And so I gaze at the sun through my citrine or amber or whatever it is energy I'm working with. And I'm receiving light from both ends at the same time. And I love it. I mean, I understand the feeling of that energy. I've been doing it for a long time. I guess it's not something I really share. But is that something that you've ever done? No, definitely try it.
Not that exact pose, but all of that makes sense. Even the citrine, right? That's transmuting the light specifically towards that color, which is going to amplify that energy center in your body, right? Your third chakra. And then what else did you say? The upside down thing. That's a practice. That's a yogic practice to stand, like headstand, while sun gazing, and then even adding breath work, like a breath of fire, but a more aggressive, like dragon's breath, not dragon's breath.
Inner fire? Is it inner fire?
Well, there's, the sun's coming through the atmosphere and in the atmosphere. So just like the citrine, if light's passing through the citrine, it's coloring the light. The light's passing through different frequencies, it's passing through different frequencies in the atmosphere. Like during sunrise, it's passing through a lot of nitrogen. This like very, very old, like Japanese, like influenced person was telling me that he said that they did studies on this. Not that I like take science as truth, but it's just cool because it's the translator to the regular people, right? To the masses. That's what they translate.
Yes.
These things that we're saying, it gets translated and encoded for them through science. Which is
because
funny,
that's what
because science is so dumbed down. Science is like the one-dimensional version of everything that is known. It's crazy. They like say, all right, we're going to do this laboratory experiment. We're going to look at this one little aspect of this greater thing, this 360-degree multi-dimensional thing. And as long as this one little aspect is provable, then we'll accept it as truth. And the issue there is that one little dimension of slice, that one plane that they look at, people take that and say that that's true, and they think that that's all there is. But the other stuff is
and
unmeasurable.
It's like this.
Yeah, you can't measure multi-dimensional things with a physical tool. Like, we're living in multiple dimensions here, and if you're talking about forces that are non-physical, you're not really going to be able to measure it in this physical reality. And so we're unable to step outside of our fish tank if we're only using the stuff inside of our fish tank to observe.
It's almost the way they describe the body too, in all these different groups and systems. So
Yeah.
you've got like the reproductive system, which, by the way, you can't see where it starts and ends. And then you've got the digestive system and all of these, but really it's the entire system affects every other thing. So that's the stuff that I'm just trying to learn about, this holistic looking at things from the outer all point of view, because then you're just honing in, and which is good if you're studying it, you're focusing, but you can't understand it unless you're seeing it from that. And then the thing is, there's always another higher level. It's like once you think you get it, then something else, some more information, some more knowledge comes in.
I met an eye doctor once at Ore Hot Springs in Ukiah. And my friend asked him, like, well, hey, how does the eye work? And he said, well, one of the first sentences out of his mouth was, I think my friend asked him, how do you see? And he said, like, which part of your eye makes you see? And then he said, well, you don't only see with your eye, you see with every single part of your body. So even something that we take as a sense organ isn't specifically here. He was like, you see out of your little toe. And that all made sense to me. So I actually quit listening to the conversation. But that one thing stuck to me, that the eye doctor said, no, you don't just see with your eyes, you see with everything. And then what you just said also, every cell, every system in our body is related to every other system. The same thing is on planet Earth. Like, we are cells, we call ourselves selves, but we are selves of the entire collective. And just like our liver cells eat, they excrete, they have agendas, they have jobs, and they eliminate waste, and they reproduce, they do all of these things. They're not necessarily aware of the entire organism like we are. And there's most probably an organism that's using ourself to experience some other perspective that we're not aware of, right? It's using all of us on the planet. Maybe the planet itself is aware of all of our cells. And so I want to just get into that, because inside of our body, murder happens. I just said there's a war of water, and the weak ones will die, and that's actually healthy for the entire organism. So within our body, all the things that we see in reality and we have problems with, back to acceptance. When you start looking at the things that people are all getting into now, the conspiracy stuff, the eating babies and blah, 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 the 9/11 and the faking of this, and the inventing of these things to control these types of people, these same systems happen within our body. And so when you look at things with ultimate acceptance, you really have to look at the Illuminati and all of this stuff with acceptance. Okay, this is happening. I accept it. How does this relate to me? How am I part of it? How do I create it? And do I want something different? And how does that happen? And so with acceptance, you can realize that, okay, murder is happening, war is happening, torture is happening even, and you can look inside of our own body and see these same processes happening. Cells are murdering other cells, and it's good for us. It's a reach. Okay. It's a reach, but with the ultimate acceptance, you can't really say, hey, that shouldn't be, because it is. Okay. So back to like, how do we have control of all this? Well, it goes into like our state, right? Like we're like, I'm sitting in a house. Somebody who barely gets paid any money made this thing for me to sit in, you know? And then the people that get paid even less money dug up the natural resources or cut down this tree so that I could like have shade from the sun so that I can sit on my $1,500 iPhone that little Chinese kids made so that we can have this communication, you know, like, so we're all a part of it, and accepting and harmonizing to it is the only way that we're going to have any control over it. We don't want to point fingers because we're pointing fingers at ourselves.
Yeah, you're totally on board with that, because like for just with your body, the kidney is not telling the throat, hey, you need to fix yourself this way. It first off doesn't know how. It's aware, but it doesn't know. So, but when the kidney fixes itself and it is 100%, all the other things, same thing with us. If I fix my world, and this gonna kind of bring it all back to why are we even here? If
Right.
I fix my world and my world affects this, and we're in sync with other people, and you fix your world, all of the entire well-being as a whole, without anyone placing direct focus on it. No one's going to come in and say, this entire world is going to be healed. But if we all do heal our individual worlds, that's the outcome. That's the well-being. It's like, what else? There's no possible other result. It's common sense. It's a logical thing.
This is why like natural indigenous cultures don't need school, because they just understand this one thing. That's all you need to understand, is that what you just said. So when you go out into nature, you don't take every single fruit on the bush. You take less than half, so that you allow that thing that you're taking from to replenish, and you're even doing it in a respectful way. And yeah, what you just said is like, that's all anyone needs to know. That's all everyone needs to know, and everyone will be taken care of. Mm-hmm. Everyone will be taken care of. But we volunteer our power away from us, and then it gets used and transmuted in ways that we volunteer for. Like I said,
if I lived in a fear, I would take all the fruits, because I would be worried that I don't have what I'm going to need. And right. I don't have that worry. So you take what you have, because tomorrow is basically today, just at a different point of view. And so it is that living in a knowing of, I don't know what it is. You just know that everything's going to be okay if you continue to live from this heart space. So yeah, I get it. And my hope is that really, like, taking all of this, we're just talking, like, we're just two people. I didn't get any training. I got training in totally different things. And I was drawn into this because I had to heal myself. And this is just, me sharing my experience, because I know everyone else is going through experiences, and this may help, raise and heal in whatever positive outcome that may be.
Right. Well, we've covered the meaning of life. Do we go on from here, or
what do we do now? Well, you know what? We're not that far away. I mean, seriously, I'm in the Bay Area one of these days, and I've got a little wellness center. I'm building a Himalayan salt cave in a yoga studio. And nice. And one of these days I would love for you to come up, or whenever you're, and be able to experience some of that. I want to build a pyramid. I want to build a pyramid that is a place for us to be able to go and meditate and pray and do our movements and whatever other stuff that our body wants to do, because you do what feels good, then good things happen.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's just good good, 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 good. If you're just always making the best choice for you and the best choice for all, then that's every single situation you find yourself in will be the best possible scenario. And yeah, it's just as simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a computer program, right? Like computers, the way that they're run now is just ones and zeros, right? It's just yeses and nos. And if you think about if every choice that you make, do I put on my shoes this way? Do I eat this way? Do I drive my car in this direction? Every choice that we have during the day, there's like the better choice versus the not so better choice. And as long as we're always choosing the better choice in every single moment, how do I answer this question? Well, what's the best way? Then every moment is going to be the best moment possible. And it goes back to the fear thing. As long as we trust that that is the case, because we know that we're always making the best choices for ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
then there's no reason to fear anything. And when the moment of death happens, like I said earlier, like death is a part of life. Like when it happens, whether it's, you know, murder or dying of old age, like living our whole life being afraid of this moment is, it's just not necessary. And when it happens, it's like, okay, here it is. And you're still continuing to make the yeses and nos based on what is best for you and everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And then we wake up from this dream and probably like live another one.
Go, well, now what?
Yeah.
What did we learn?
Yeah.
I completely am enjoying this journey. It's a learning journey. It is, because you learn to respond to the same situation a little bit differently, and you can see such a huge change. I don't want to say it's like a game, but it's very similar to that. Like, if you look at it as a giant network, we're playing a video game, different levels.
Exactly.
It's experience points, and you know, you win some, you lose some, but then you get to that level, you beat the boss, and now you're the suckiest one at the next level. Now you're like, you gotta start over. Where does it end? Doesn't really matter as long as you're, you know, collecting stars.
Enjoying the game. Yeah.
So,
and the funny thing is, everyone's playing the same level right now with this coronavirus.
with no rules too. That's the best
And
thing.
so we're all experiencing it differently. And it's fun to see that some people are dying, and I don't like, and some people are like in like a state of anxiety that's crazy. And some people are like, oh, sweet, a vacation. And some people are like, yeah, I knew this whole change was coming. So it's crazy because it's the same scenario. Everyone on earth is in it, and we're all choosing how we experience it. It's just like the dream thing, right? It's coming in, and the story that we're all choosing to make of this shift is the coronavirus. Whether it was man-made, or whether it's an immune response, or whether it's just completely made up, that really doesn't matter, because it's an event that's happening and we're interpreting it in a certain way. And it says a lot about ourselves as individuals based on how we're interpreting this thing that everybody on the entire world is interpreting it.
Yeah, it's kind of like the body of the world is sick, and are you in fight or flight, or are you growing and glowing? Like, which cell are you? Because we're just a small piece of this giant being. And some of us are going to fight and flight and go into that defense mode. But it's an acceptance that everyone needs to do what they need to do. We are going to experience what we're supposed to, because that's just how it is. If you're going to have a good day tomorrow, it is partly because of your intention, but partly because that's the experience that you've drawn in from your today, from your present moment. So it's enjoy the ride.
That's right.
Well, we did cover a lot of things. I know it wasn't just sun gazing, it was everything under the sun and more. So I'm stoked to have met you, because you're there where I'm like thinking the same thing. There's no box. We don't even really think where we're thinking, but so it's this is very informative. I learned a lot of things about my hair, and I actually tried connecting, like, you know, the movie. Have you ever connected your hair with someone in meditation and tried to transfer energy that way? I mean, there's just a lot of different things I've been experimenting with.
Yeah.
I've done a Dr. Emoto tests with water. I have a sound machine that does a lot of, like, I want to be able to structure water. I can take a water, place the structure of, let's say, the vibration that is anti-diabetes, and put it in water. And then
Right.
here, put it into your reality. And that your focus and your belief system will amplify it or hinder it. So it's so many different things.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's wild. But I will go ahead and end this. We've talked for a long time, and I am so thankful that you took this time. I know you're well, actually, I don't know if you're busy, but you seem to be having a fabulous day. So
Yeah.
I want to meet up someday and bring you over to our wellness center and try out. I have a float tank. You can go in the sensory deprivation tank and go in the salt cave, and just all these different.
Where are you at? San Francisco?
About an hour from San Francisco. So I've got a yoga studio, flotation tank. We're building the salt cave, and a little crystal store. Yeah, in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Would, yeah, I'd be able to host you. I'd actually be able to host you for you and your partner for a weekend to do a workshop. I have a space, and I've got, we've got stuff to share.
Awesome. Yeah. When that's allowed.
I'm open.
Okay. Oh, nice. Sweet.
Wellness is essential.
Yeah, you're right. I'm open too. I'm doing my businesses also.
I know, I'm doing more than I'm actually doing more.
Yeah, we're booming.
Before. So
yeah,
I'm so excited to talk to you, and this is gonna you've brought up some things that I'd never thought about, just different perspectives, and it's all gathering more pieces, connecting more dots, finding more dots, and if they don't connect, oh well, they're still dots.
Yep. The connection stops the drain.
I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to say, share, an event, something that you're doing? I definitely am one of your supporters.
Well, no, I mean, my social media channels are most, that's where most of the information is. I'm on Instagram at raw_of_earth. And that's pretty much where you can find everything that I'm doing for now.
All right. Sounds good. And whenever you're ready to do a weekend workshop, we have a space. We have
for sure. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been fun for me also.
Thank you. I will definitely be connecting with you another time. Have a great rest of your day.
Yep, you too.
Bye.